everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we got a little Chappelle and Simpsons to talk about. Now, everybody's been seeing the headlines. I'm going to guess the majority of you with Netflix have actually now seen Sticks and Stones, the Dave Chappelle comedy special, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Caught it yesterday. Wasn't going to do a video on it until I actually watched it so I could judge for myself on what were jokes. And in my opinion, and I'm sure if somebody actually talked to Dave, not necessarily his opinions. As I would say, as anybody who knows about what entertainment and comedy is, you explore ideas that necessarily are not yours, but what other people are thinking or are funny, and you relate those to actual stories and sometimes fabricated ones, 100%. I mean, when this guy, when he's talking about, the heroin epidemic, the opioid epidemic, the crack epidemic, their similarities, and, somebody, asking to, go down on him for 5, and he says 2. Do you think that actually happened? Of course not. It's a joke. It's a joke. But we live in this society where they constantly want to manufacture outrage, and that's why I want to start with Apu, and what I feel is a huge win for common sense thinking people, and really the Simpsons as a dynasty of not only entertainment but accurate satire on society. All right, so Matt Groening, and by the way, this guy behind me, he's trying to get Apu banned, has the final word on Apu, and he says he's going to stay. Yes, he will stay on the show. We love Apu. We are proud of Apu. And this was at the D23 Expo this past weekend. Good. Thank you. First of all, I want to go over all the positive aspects of this character, okay? Because, they want to try to make it very negative and say, they compare him to monkeys and this and that. And first of all, that's not the truth. The Simpsons pokes fun at everybody. And Hank Azaria...
How many of you had...
I didn't want to do that. I just wanted the picture of Apu. Grr, he's terrible. Let me tell you a little story about my life, okay? And hopefully some of you out there are going to relate a little bit. Grew up in Dutchess County. That's where I just came from for the memorial service of my my uncle. And in that area, I lived in Wappingers Falls, Fishkill, Beacon, etc., etc. I was poor, okay? I moved around a lot. I didn't have a lot. However, one of my father's friends was a deli store owner. And in a sense had a lot of positive similarities. Now, we could talk about a hackneyed accent all we want, but they have the pizza guy, everybody on The Simpsons. The Italians, the Asians, everybody is visually and audio stereotyped, including the white people, the dumb father. Because think about it, who has the better car? Is it Apu or is it Homer? Apu has a Corvette. And in the 80s, when I knew this gentleman, he also had a Corvette. He was a great guy. He was an entrepreneur. He was a self-starter. I would say visually they were a little bit different. He had a beard and a mustache, but he had a younger brother he ran the store with, and he looked very similar to that. I would say the jacket wasn't there, but a polo. They're visually kind of accurate, and I don't think that's a negative thing. If you look at this character, I think he's, again, 100% a positive character, somebody who takes care of his family. They got to go over all these different social mores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So with that being said, I wanted to show some people something, okay? And this is why I hate identity politics. I don't like race or even, we can talk about race and genders or sex, but I'm not a bigot, okay? I love everybody. The idea that I would hate somebody because of their the color of their skin or their sexual orientation to me is maddening. I don't understand it. It's absolutely crazy, and it's not content of character based. Okay, Nick Waits says turning into this live stream 9 East 71st Street, New York City, aka the mansion Les Wexner sold to Jeff Epstein for $1. I can feel the pure evil thumbs up and share. Viewers, Burmis Brigade. We're going to be doing a big Epstein update with some exclusive info after this broadcast. But I wanted to show some people some things, okay? So here it is, My 1997 Everything Under the Sun yearbook. There's the name, everything. This is it. Okay? Let's do this. Okay. So, what you're going to see here is, where is it, my other finger? That's me. Okay? Underneath, what does it say? It says Matt, Jeff, and Paco. Okay? My name is not Paco. My name is Jason. However, I moved upstate New York. I moved to a predominantly white town where there may have been some racism. By the way, there was also racism in the 80s downstate. There was the racism generationally has gotten better in my opinion because I've seen less and less of it over time, which is a promising thing. However, I was darker, as you could see, than the other kids there. So in the first week, I got called Taco. All right? But eventually that progressed. And just so everybody knows that that was actually me, here's the most embarrassing shot you're ever going to see. Me and my dyed hair. There's Jason Burmis, right? There he is. Now, on the next page, once again, what does it say? Paco. Okay? I'm not mad. My teachers called me that. Most of them assumed it was my real name at times until they actually had me. I rolled with it. I was a kid, you know. I wanted acceptance, and you know, I made a lot of friends. It was a nickname, but it was certainly a derogatory one, I guess. But why? I mean, is it derogatory to be of Mexican or Latin or Puerto Rican descent? No, I still get mistaken for that. I don't see a problem with it. Now, I had another buddy in there that came in a couple years later, deeper, downstate in New York, in the actual city, I believe, from the Bronx. A lot harder than I was. And people did bust on him about his race, and he fought about it. I mean, as a poor kid, you end up fighting anyway. And that's where I want to get into Dave Chappelle, because he also makes that great point, which we're going to get into this special. Vice trying to get you to not watch this thing, which is ridiculous. Now, in the first 5-10 minutes, he really sets the stage that you know that this isn't going to be your normal play-it-safe type of comedy. No, he's going to dig in. And the first point he makes is that, who am I? You did something wrong 5, 10, 20 years ago. I don't care what it is. It could be anything, but if I find out, you're done. You're done. And he's like, who's that? And everybody's like, duh, I knew who it was. It was the audience. It was everybody. It was the vipers out there. And he's right. People make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I'm sure that there are people out there that eventually are going to, you know, want to say something to me or do, you know, listen, there's already people that threaten to do a ton to me. Oh, they're going to expose this and that. Who knows what they'll find? I mean, I'm far from perfect. That's a thing. So I'm glad that he is doing this 100%. On top of that, I would say that with him talking about whether a lot of people are trying to make it out. In fact, there's responses now, okay, that Michael Jackson's accusers respond after getting blasted in Chappelle's new comedy. It reveals him, not us. Now, first of all, he doesn't name anybody by name. He tells people not to watch the Michael Jackson special. He says he doesn't believe them, but then again, none of this is beyond comedy. We have to make sure. But then he also says, well, if he did do it, you know, going through people's minds and justifications. I don't think that he necessarily actually believes that. However, he might. Is he entitled to that opinion? Do we need the thought police? There's a guy I saw, Rob Ager. I'm a big fan of Rob Ager. I've been following Rob Ager for well over 10 years now. He did a video way back in the day called The Meaning of the Monolith, and I thought it was awesome. I think that his film analysis is very good. I don't agree with him all the time, but he did a whole breakdown on how he doesn't trust the body language of the accusers in Leaving Neverland. Does that mean that Michael Jackson's innocent? No, it doesn't. It means that person's allowed to have that opinion. And in light of, you know, whatever evidence is out there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We can't criminalize thought. And now people want to cancel Dave. You know, there were some great moments where, for instance, he talked about the word F-A-G-G-O-T. We can't say it on this platform. Just like I can't drop an N-bomb. But he said, you know, on my show, I was allowed to drop as many N-bombs as I want, but I wasn't allowed to say that word. And an executive said, well, that's because you're not that word. And he said, I'm not an N-bomb either. That's profound. That's some real shit. And I thought this thing was brilliant top to bottom. I'm encouraging to go check it out. I think that most of this is manufactured because most of us get it. We understand it. We know it. You know, Chappelle also said another funny thing that I think, again, is somewhat correct. You know, he said, look, there's really no difference between a poor black person or a poor white person. The only difference is a poor white person thinks it shouldn't be happening to them. And that shows the conditioning out there because of the culture around. But I specifically can relate to that because I remember being in the social service line. I probably wasn't even 10 years old yet. And me and my brother were the only white kids in it, and it was out the door. And this was, I think, in Fishkiller Beacon. And I was like, wow, this is different. This is weird. Okay. Wow, weird. And then later in life, you know, when you are, you know, surrounded by a bunch of middle-class white kids, I guess, and they all have stuff and you don't, you do feel like, hey, wait, I shouldn't be. But I think that's a good thing. Again, it's environment. It's nature versus nurture. When you're in that environment, I've never taken from the government dole at all. After college loans or whatever that was from the state, that's it. I've never taken a credit card. I've paid for everything I've had. I've worked for everything I've had. I'd never go to social services, ever. Never, ever for anything. Because I remember that life. And I never want to be on a path to that life again. And I hope that that's an encouraging situation, not some snowflake situation where we somehow downgrade. And it's the same thing with, you know, using the F-bomb. You know, I saw my cousin, who, you know, was like a little brother to me at times when we were kids, for the first time in 11 years. In Portland was the last time I saw him. And the last time I saw my buddy Nate, I'm not going to say his last name, but a good buddy of mine, we came up in graphic design and kind of like my first video shoots and everything with these little DV cameras and funny stuff way back in the day. And I saw him 11 years ago. And at the time, I don't think he had come out. But he's come out since then. I haven't seen him since then. Do you think I'd hug him any less or love him any less? And that's the problem with the culture today. Everything's in this black and white outrage mentality when there's a ton of gray area and there's a ton of places that we can relate with one another. So, folks, if you like what I do, you can check out all of my films for free over on my YouTube page. Please subscribe. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. Okay, and like I said, go over. It's youtube.com/InfoWarrior. Just hit subscribe right now. We're putting out 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 videos a day over here. And I'm doing it with your help, and only your help. So I don't have a Patreon. I don't have a Subscribe Star. There are no private Skype sessions. I'm not twisting nipples over here. I'm trying to put out real things that go beyond the bullshit left and right paradigm that we have been trained like dogs to believe in. And I'm just not down with that. So if you like my stuff, please support me. Share it everywhere. If you can financially support me, $5, $10, $15, that's great. I really appreciate that as well. With that being said, everybody, I'll see you on the flip side.